John Krenson retired from the Tennessee National Guard and is now CEO of Operation Stand Down Tennessee. Operation Stand Down focuses on helping all veterans and their families by engaging, equipping, empowering, and reconnecting them to their community. Up next on Veteran on the Move.
Welcome to Veteran on the Move. If you're a veteran in transition, an entrepreneur wannabe, or someone still stuck in that job trying to escape, this podcast is dedicated to your success. And now, your host, Joe Crane.
My good friend and fellow veteran Bob Hewlin has come out with his new book titled Transitions 2.0. This is the best book for any transitioning veteran. Check out Transitions 2.0 at veteranonthemove.com/transitions. All right, today we're welcoming John Krenson from Operation Stand Down in Tennessee. I'm up in the Kansas City area. That's why I say down in Tennessee. But anyways, John, welcome to Veteran on the Move. Before we get to talk about Operation Stand Down and what you're doing with that, tell us about your career in the Army Guard.
Yeah, sure. So, Joe, I just wrapped up 30 years of Army National Guard service about a year and a half ago. And the first half of my career really was traditional guardsman in the strategic reserve, Cold War paradigm. And so I wasn't terribly busy other than the weekends, 2 weeks a year. And as I rose in rank, it got quite a bit busier with that. But after 9/11, things really got heavy. And so I've been deployed to Afghanistan for a year, did Hurricane Katrina for about a month or so, Hurricane Gustav similarly, and then also deployment to Iraq in 2010. Was on active orders for about 3.5 years with the mobilization for Iraq, being in country, then did a 1-year hitch right after getting back from Iraq, and then I went to the Army War College for a year in the residence course up there, and a graduate of 2012. So for the most part, a traditional Guard career citizen soldier, but like many other guardsmen in the last 15, 20 years, it's been high tempo.
Absolutely. I was a reservist myself working for the airlines when September 11th happened. And a month later, I was a furloughed from my airline job reservist. And I ended up going back on active duty and 12 plus years later, retired from the active side. Actually, the active reserve side is how it turned out. So I've probably been in every component that you can be in, active, drilling reservist, IRR, active reserve, which is kind of like what you guys call it, AGR. But
that's right.
Yeah. So I can certainly relate. So talk a little bit about some of your transitions that happened post 9/11 as you had to go on active duty and back off active duty, and then you were still in the reserves as you worked your way through all that, which is what a lot of reserve and Guard units have been through many times over the last 15 years.
Yeah, sure. And I really had a couple of distinct experiences with those transitions. So my first deployment was to Afghanistan. I was a co-owner in a chemical company at the time, about a $2 million business. I was 50% partner in it. And so when I got back from Afghanistan, I decided to sell my half of the company to my business partner and close friend. And so that was a real interesting transition. While I was deployed, you go through those situations where, hey, am I going to make it back? What do I want to do with the rest of my life if I'm blessed to make it back? What's it mean for my family? And so that led to a great degree to my decision to sell out. And then I became an independent contractor. But it was interesting because, especially with the post 9/11 generation, we get yanked in and out of these deployments. And so this very first one, I'll never forget, as I was waiting to come back, we're at Bagram Air Base, about 2 a.m, there's a rocket attack. And we just kind of look around. Okay, hey, they didn't hit us. No more coming in. Let's continue to wait for the plane. And then less than 24 hours later, I'm walking through the airport in Atlanta to catch a commercial flight back into Nashville. And I remember walking through Atlanta, I was really excited to be coming home. I had young children, ages 4 and 3 years old. Couldn't wait to see them. But as I walked through that airport in Atlanta, I felt this uncharacteristic wave of resentment come over me because I thought, 24 hours ago, there was a rocket attack, and these people, they're not experiencing that. They have no idea what that's like. So it took me a little while to kind of come down. I had an irate phone call with a customer of ours about a month later, which was all on me. And so I just kind of needed to step back. But the other thing that was part of that transition was, I'd gained a lot of skills while I was overseas, worked in a very dynamic, multicultural environment, obviously a lot of pressure. And so I'd gained a lot of confidence. And actually, I think I didn't know what it was at the time, but I think I experienced, certainly some post-traumatic stress. But I ran into a doctorate student just a few years ago who was studying a phenomenon called post-traumatic growth. And I think that I experienced some of that because I came back really, really confident in ways that I had not been confident before. And I was a pretty confident guy. I mean, I'd been a business owner. You're not a business owner and successful in that if you don't have some degree of confidence. But, I think I came back very, very strong, and that helped me deal with these other issues. But then when I came back, my second big transition was coming back from Iraq, and I had been on active orders for about 3.5 years on that one, and that one was a lot tougher one. So my children were older, and I really went through a period for quite a while of disconnectedness. I didn't feel connected to my family. I had been an independent contractor doing consulting and training work, so I didn't come back to a traditional company or even a career to come back to. I was having to start again from scratch when I came off active duty this time. So I wasn't connected to a career. I wasn't connected with my church community. I mean, I really felt kind of alone, and it really took a while to get reestablished that second time around.
Absolutely. I experienced many of those things myself. I still remember I was plucked out of Western Iraq, helicopter C-130 down to Kuwait, and ended up on a Delta Airlines flight headed home. And when I got back to the U.S., I was overwhelmed with the color green. I hadn't seen anything green because we're out in the desert,
Yeah,
the color green was just like, it was like color overload to my eyes. It was really weird. How many years ago was that? Like, 12, 15 years ago, and it was like, holy cow, I was overwhelmed with the color green. And I remember being on a commercial airliner in the summer with all these families that were going back and forth traveling to Europe and vacation. And less than 24 hours before I was in Western Iraq experiencing everything that goes on a daily basis. It was very, very surreal and a huge culture shock. So sounds like we had some similar experiences.
Oh yeah, I think that's a common bond that probably all of us who've been deployed, we experienced something very similar to that to varying degrees, but it's definitely a bond I think we all have.
Absolutely. So talk to us about, as your career in the Guard finished up and what you were doing at the time, and eventually how you got into, first of all, what is Operation Standdown, and then how you got into that?
Yeah, sure. So Operation Standdown, Tennessee, has been around for 24 years. In fact, in 2018, we celebrate our 25th anniversary. And the organization started in 1993 by a group of very active citizens, including some public officials, some nonprofit folks, government officials from the VA, to organize a 3-day outreach event for, at the time, homeless veterans, particularly from the Vietnam War era. And basically, in 1993, there was an overrepresentation of Vietnam-era veterans in the homeless population. There was a homelessness crisis across the country. And so there was nothing being done really systemically to reach out and take care of these Vietnam War vets who had really fallen through the cracks, and frankly, that society had turned their back on. So this was the effort to fix that, some 20 years, after that war ended and this crisis had festered. So those are our roots. And we became a full-time organization in 1999. Where we branched out from just doing the annual 3-day event. We began operating 4 transitional homes for veterans to come off the streets back into mainstream society. And we built up a number of services around that, employment services, getting veterans hooked up with their benefits, a lot of life skills programs. We later on got connected with groups like Project Healing Waters, Reboot Combat Recovery, which we still work with those groups today. And so now, 15, 17 years following the 9/11, we really have a grand opportunity to let this generation, our generation of veterans, not go through the same crisis that the Vietnam War veteran went through as a generation. And in fact, the VA came out with a study just a little bit over a year ago that was projecting veteran homelessness among the post 9/11 veteran to sharply increase beginning in 2020. And so we're not there yet. And in fact, we have that opportunity to prevent that from happening in the first place. So our goal as an organization is to pivot our outreach to post 9/11 veterans and really to engage them as early in transition as possible so that they never get to that cliff of having to find themselves in a homeless situation. So if we can get veterans engaged as they're coming out of the service, if they want to be entrepreneurs, if we can get them hooked up with battle buddies who've been there and done that and know how to do that path, then we can get them on a right course. And in fact, we did just a couple of years ago, we had a young veteran we worked with. He'd been an enlisted guy. He came out of the service, and he had been out of the service for about a year or so. And he was working in a warehouse, found his way to us because he wanted to upgrade his employment. So our employment counselor said, "Hey, are you engaged? Or were you a supply specialist? Is that why you're working in a warehouse?" And the veteran said, "Well, no, this was just a job that I could get." And so we asked him what he did in the military. Well, he had put together networks, computer networks in Iraq, in a combat zone. And so we said, "Well, did you like that, or are you looking to get away from that?" He goes, "No, I'd love to do something like that again." So the long and short, we really got him to get his resume put together in a way that civilians could understand it, where it was really relevant to them, where it made sense to them. We taught him how to do the skills. We got him dressed for success through our voucher program with a thrift store that we operate. We got him, coat and suit and tie, all that good business. And he ended up getting software contracts with some large organizations, $40 an hour. And now he works software contracts as an independent contractor, but he also opened a brick and mortar hardware repair company. So he's an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. And we were able to get him engaged early in that transition. When that first year, while he was struggling, this guy will have no reason ever to be homeless. And in fact, he should, thrive as a civilian. And that's the kind of success story, that we're looking to replicate over and over and over again with our post 9/11 veterans.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, you touched on a number of different things that you did for this kid. In one example, just putting a good suit on him and those kinds of things. But what is it? What do you think it was, or what do you think it is that guys like that? How did he? Trying to think of how I want to ask this. How did he accept just go to warehouse? And then one day he kind of woke up because he came to you guys, right? He came to you guys and said, "You know what? I want to get out of where I'm at." But he just couldn't connect the dots on how to do it. What was missing, or what were the key points? Because obviously the suit is just kind of a extraneous thing. But what was the meat and potatoes of what was missing, or what you guys did?
Yeah, and that's the right question, because this kid had been in the military, since he was about 18, so all he knew from a professional standpoint, was the military work world. Mm-hmm. So he didn't know where to start coming into the civilian world. Now, he'd been through the TAP program, and, I don't know if it was Soldier for Life at that time. I think Soldier for Life was kind of getting up and going at that point. But, like every other soldier that goes through that program, he was tuning it out. Those are required briefings you got to sit in. It's death by PowerPoint. He's thinking about what he's going to be doing that night. So he really wasn't paying attention. And so I think what he went through, like many do, is they get outside the wire, if you will. And all of a sudden it's that, oh crap kind of moment. I should have paid attention. So he took the first job he could get because he didn't know really where to start. Probably came out. I think he in his particular case, he was nervous about what was going to be in the work world. And when he got into that warehouse environment, he was starting to fall into a pattern that we see many times, and that is, hey, I'm in an environment that I'm not used to. I don't really see the purpose in what I'm doing. I don't really have a whole lot in common with my workmates, my work colleagues, or really even my supervisors. And I've been in a lot more responsible, stressful situations. And now I've really taken this step back. And the good thing for him was that he recognized that and says, hey, I'm going to reach out and try to do something better. Where what a lot of folks do is they take that other fork and they just stop going to work, or they blow up with somebody.
Yeah.
Then they begin to isolate, then they can't pay for their apartment. So then they move in with an old battle buddy or a relative, but that doesn't work out real good. And then they begin couch surfing a week here, a month here, 3 weeks here, no job. Maybe they'll go back to school with their post 9/11 benefits, not with any real forethought, but just because, hey, I can get that stipend and it'll give me something to do.
Oh yeah,
but they don't connect there either, Yeah, so it just becomes
you're blowing your GI Bill just to get the stipend.
Yeah, exactly. It's a survival thing. It's that then they can't get that back, once they wake up.
Yeah,
so this kid woke up and he was able to connect with us.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, hey John, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Army veteran Bob Hewlin knows the struggles veterans face in the transition process and has dedicated his post-retirement years to helping veterans successfully transition into the civilian sector. His new book, Transitions 2.0, is one of the best books for any veteran facing the transition process. You can find Transitions 2.0 at veteranonthemove.com/transitions. Also, Bob Hewlin is the chairman and CEO of the Center for Transitional Leadership. CTL seeks to assist and empower armed forces personnel during their transition from military service to private sector employment, with particular focus on helping military men and women position themselves to be sought-after candidates in the civilian workforce. I have the pleasure of serving on the board of directors for CTL, and you can check out the CTL website by going to veteranonthemove.com/CTL. All right, back talking with John Krenson from Operation Stand Down in Tennessee. And before the break, we were talking about some of the things at Operation Stand Down. One specific example of a military veteran you guys had helped. Let's go back and what is the actual mission and vision of Operation Stand Down?
Yeah, so our mission is to connect veterans and their families to their community, and particularly to resources in the community that are there to help veterans get integrated back into society. And so in a lot of ways, it's broad. We see ourselves very similar to that welcome center that's on every military installation across the world, which is a resource provider. So a veteran can come into Operation Stand Down Tennessee as a one-stop shop. In many cases, we provide direct services like our career transitions, or we have a veteran service officers on staff who can help veterans begin their claims with the VA. Or we can say, hey, look, we don't do this, but we know who does. So for example, if they're coming in and they're struggling with PTS, situations like that, anxiety, depression, that is trauma, combat trauma related, then we can get them connected with the Veteran Counseling Center. We can get them connected with Centerstone Military Services. We can get them connected with Reboot Combat Recovery. And we host a lot of these programs at our facility, even though they're not our programs, but we provide that space. For example, Reboot Combat Recovery is a 12-week program for veterans, and 3 times a year we have 12-week sessions with that group going on. But many times it's also just referring them to another resource in the community like Veterans Path, who focuses on mindfulness. And they do a lot of nature work, a lot of hikes, a lot of rock climbing, things like that. So we'll refer that veteran to Veterans Path to get connected with that. But that's what our mission is to get veterans connected to the resources in their community so they can then be better connected to the community and thrive in the community.
That's a great mission. And you hit on a lot of really good points there, because I truly feel being involved in the whole veteran transition space that I think that, and this is just Joe Crane talking, one of the biggest contributors to veteran suicide is because they've lost their sense of purpose. And why have they lost the sense of purpose? Because they're not connected anymore. If they were still in the military, they might not be. They have a much less likely chance. And now that they're out, they're totally disconnected from everything, especially if they've been doing it for many years in the military. They lose all their support, all their buddies, everything. They're totally disconnected. So they have to reconnect. And the civilian community looks like such a foreign object to them after you've been in the military for several years that you're like, yeah, there's nothing I can connect with here. So that's great that you're making that connection. And on the flip side, there's so many people in the civilian sector that want to connect with the veteran community, but they have the same problem. They don't know enough veterans to find that conduit into that community. And so you're in between making the two and connecting them.
Exactly. So we almost as much provide a service to the civilian world in getting them access to veterans, not only to help, but to get engaged with, because, hey, we're looking for veteran employees. My challenge in the employment space is not that I don't have enough jobs and civilians willing to hire veterans, is that I have so many civilians that want to hire veterans that I've got to get the veterans to them. So at least here in Middle Tennessee, we are definitely in an environment that is very open and welcoming of veterans, want veterans here, and there's enormous opportunities for veterans. And one of the things, too, we're working really hard is to further the perception that veterans aren't victims that need to be pulled up off the ground, but veterans are value-added resources to the community that are ready to go to work, and are ready to bring purpose, to the jobs that they have. And so I think two things are important there, and you nailed them there, Joe, is, that sense of purpose and then also that connection. So the key, I think, to the PTS and the suicide issue is for veterans to get connected early before those things can, really get out of control, and which self-isolation, leads to all that. So engaging veterans early at school and at work and getting them with their benefits. And the other is helping a veteran find purpose. And that can be a little bit difficult, because it's easy to see what your purpose is in the military. I mean, it could be the mission, hey, we're out there defending freedom. But even if you don't buy into whatever the particular mission is, you see your purpose is having the back of that person on your right and the person on your left. So at the end of the day, your mission is each other's lives, and that's all you got. And that's huge. I mean, that's a noble, huge purpose. And coming into the civilian world, sometimes it's hard to find that, because you say, well, I'm doing widgets, and we're in manufacturing, or if I'm in the professional space and I'm an accountant, or I'm in sales, it's hard to see the intrinsic value in that. And so one thing we try to tell, I try to coach veterans on, and this is from my own experience, is that there is a purpose in all this. For one thing, we raised our right hand, we wore the uniform, we went off to defend freedom. Well, freedom to do what? Well, freedom to make choices, freedom to speak freely, freedom to worship freely, freedom to educate our kids, freedom to have, good lifestyles. And you can only have that in a good economy. So if you're working in a civilian workplace, your purpose is to create jobs, or it may be to educate folks, or if it's in the government, it may be to help society. But your purpose is being that foundation for freedom. And sometimes you got to look deeper for that. But we can find a purpose in every job we've got. We can find a purpose. And if we don't believe there's a purpose there, then what were we fighting for in the first place? So sometimes we have to really get a veteran to kind of look at that very, very broadly, and really, look at that second and third order impact of the job that they're doing to find that intrinsic value, because it's there.
Absolutely. Wow, that was awesome. That was extremely motivating. It speaks to my heart. I mean, it's so true. Because I was with the Army for a few years, and hoorah if you're a Marine.
That's right.
And whatever anybody else says. But it's so true, and I think a lot of veterans miss that when they get out. They say, hey, now that you're out, there's the governor of the new governor of Missouri started Mission Continues out of St. Louis.
Yeah.
Navy SEAL. It's the concept of, just because you're out doesn't mean you're done. You're not in the military anymore. But the best thing, why the military puts so much money into Army for Life and all of the transition programs that are out there? I mean, millions and millions of dollars.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because
the best recruiting, one person said, well, it's because a lot of these guys, if they're getting forced out, they're going to be on unemployment, and it's costing a lot of money. But more long-term strategy, the best recruiting tool is somebody that was in the military, gets out, and then gets a good job or has a career or goes into entrepreneurship and lives happily ever after. Because every time he runs into somebody, he's going to speak positive about his military experience and everything that's happened since then. That right there is more of a powerful recruiting tool than anything else. And so,
absolutely.
as a veteran getting out, I always like to tell folks, I'm like, you still have a duty to your country when you get out to make us proud. I mean, what's the point in going and defending freedom if you're going to come back and lead a shameful or worthless life? I mean, what did you do all that for? Now you have to you get to experience the fruits of your labor. You defended it, you fought for it. Now you get to reap the rewards. And so you're not doing yourself or anybody else justice if you come home and don't lead some type of honorable life. Do something with what you've experienced and what you've earned.
Oh, sure. And especially, entrepreneurs going out there and creating those jobs and opportunities for families to thrive and all that. And I like how you mentioned, Mission Continues. That's a great organization, along with like Team Red, White, and Blue and Team Rubicon. In my mind, these are the three organizations particularly that are the followers of the American Legion and the VFW and the DAV, because veterans of our generation, they don't want to go, and I'm not casting aspersions against these other groups, but they don't want to go sit and smoke cigarettes and tell old stories. They want to go and they want to rock climb. They want to do physical activity, with brothers and sisters who have shared experiences. They want to go work on a habitat build, or go clean out a school in an urban area, as a Mission Continues project. And so that's what our veterans, they need to find these groups, and we help connect veterans to groups like this. When veterans get into, if they're not following the entrepreneurship path through groups like Bunker Labs, which have veteran cohorts go through to learn entrepreneur skills, but if they go to companies, they can find companies and really do research on what are the companies that have employer support groups that are focused on veterans, and get involved in that, or if you go to a small company that doesn't have one of those, start one of those, take the initiative, take the lead, and make yourself a leader in the civilian world by bringing, the great values from the military that we can then translate in. There's enormous leadership opportunities for veterans out there to help engage other veterans, and do it in a way that's appropriate and relevant in the civilian world.
Outstanding. So, John, if you had to give some advice to that veteran that's getting ready to get out, or maybe somebody's already in a transition, or even they've already transitioned a year or so ago and they don't like where they landed, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, well, the first thing is make sure and reach out. Don't isolate. You come to a fork in the road, and you can begin to disconnect even more and begin to isolate, and that is going to be the path of destruction. You're not doing yourself or your nation any service or your family any service by choosing that path. So begin to get engaged. If you're in Middle Tennessee, come to Operation Stand Down Tennessee, and we can get you connected, with volunteer opportunities. It may not be that, hey, you're homeless, and you need a voucher to get into a home. You may just need to connect with other veterans and give back, and many times when we work with veterans, that's where we start, is providing them a volunteer opportunity. And then while they're with us, say, hey, look, I didn't realize you can help me upgrade my employment or connect me with Bunker Labs. So, the key thing is reach out, find other veterans, find veteran organizations, and get connected. And that will begin to open the doors for you to get the resources that you've earned, as well as the relationships too that will bring great value to you, both in a personal sense and a professional sense.
All right, that's awesome, John. So I will give you the last word. One last shout out for Operation Stand Down. How do we find Operation Stand Down? What's your website? And any closing words that you may have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in fact, we've just updated our website, so we're excited for people to check it out. The views on the thing have skyrocketed, so we'd love people to come check it out. It's www.osdtn.org, or Oscar Sierra Delta Tango November.org, stands for Operation Stand Down Tennessee. Come check the site out. If you're not in Nashville, and you're in that transition phase, I'm telling you, Nashville is the place to be. They call it the IT city. It's fun. There's opportunities. I think there's 1,500 IT jobs that are wide open. So come check out the Tennessee, and if you're interested in coming to Nashville from wherever you are, then come to us first. Let us be your welcome center to get you started. We can help you with VA home loans. We can connect you with the Nashville County, the Davidson County, Nashville's in Davidson County. That veteran service officer has her office at Operation Stand Down Tennessee. So we can be that welcome center and get you connected. If you're already in Nashville and maybe you haven't heard of us, come find us, because we can get you on that right path, get you connected.
All right, John, that was awesome. So many great points, and you guys are doing great things down there. I meant to ask, is this a full-time job for you now?
Yes, it is. In fact, we're quite a large organization. Most people are surprised by that, but we've got we have just under about a $2.75 million budget. We've got 41 staff members, including a number of job training veterans that we have that are in our thrift store program. We have an office in Clarksville, which I'm remiss to not mention. We've had an office in Clarksville for wrapping up 3 years up there, and that thing is growing like gangbusters. So we are a hefty organization, and we can do a lot for veterans. So yes, it's a full-time job. I've been the CEO here for 2.5 years. And we've got a fantastic staff. Most of us are veterans. I'd say 60 to 70% at any given time are veterans. And those that aren't veterans are typically veteran family members, either spouses or children of veterans or parents of veterans.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so the passion is there. The passion is there in this organization.
I mean, it's so inspiring to see so many phenomenal organizations like Operation Stand Down is just one of them. There's thousands of them.
Oh yeah,
and they all do different things, and they all do it in a different way. But their hearts are all in the right place.
And most of us want to collaborate, work together,
exactly.
So because we're on the same mission.
Yeah. So, all right, John. Well, that's about it. Thanks again for sharing the Operation Stand Down stories, some of your personal stories, and sounds like we probably walked some of the same ground at one point.
I bet we did.
All right.
Hey, Joe, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, and check us out on Facebook. We're on Facebook too. So
okay, John, thanks. These two veterans are Oscar Mike. As you can tell from listening to the Veteran on the Move podcast, interviews are a great way to tell your story and spread the word about your business. If you would like to get booked as a podcast guest, I recommend Interview Valet. You can check out Interview Valet at veteranonthemove.com/valet. Be sure to check out Thrive15.com, the world's premier online education platform that helps entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs learn how to start or grow a successful business. Start your free 30-day membership by going to Thrive15.com and use the promo code VETERAN. Thank you for listening to Veteran on the Move, your pathfinder to freedom. If you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews are always greatly appreciated. So until next time, this veteran is Oscar Mike.